Welcome back, Deep Divers. Today we're diving into Atomic Habits.
Oh, yeah.
By James Clear. We're taking excerpts from his book,
Right.
figuring out how can we turn these small changes, these little things, into big, massive results.
Exactly, yeah.
And we're gonna be your guides.
Yeah.
To becoming the best version of yourself.
Exactly, that's what we're talking about.
One good habit at a time.
One good habit at a time. But also, kicking those bad habits to the curb.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about those pesky ones that have been hanging around for too long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're going to learn how to get rid of them once and for all.
So James Clear, right, his own story is a great example of this. He had this brutal baseball injury.
Oh, wow.
When he was in high school, like facial fractures, the whole 9 yards.
Wow,
but instead of letting that, define him, he actually focused on, small wins, rebuilding his strength, coordination, bit by bit.
Yeah, and that's such a great illustration of the power of compounding. He compares it to. Imagine gaining or losing 1% every single day for a year. The outcome is actually crazy either way.
Wow.
And it shows you how those little insignificant choices, like the things you do every day, those little habits, can actually snowball into something much bigger over time.
So how do we get that for ourselves?
Yeah.
Besides, reading the book, how do we translate that into
right.
actual change?
Right.
He lays out this framework. It's called the 4 stages of habit.
Oh, yeah.
And it's cue, craving, response, and reward.
Uh-huh.
It's like a cycle that our brains go through with every habit, good or bad.
Yeah, I love this framework. It's so helpful to visualize what's actually going on. So, for example, let's say your cue is walking into the kitchen after work. The craving might be for a sugary snack because your brain associates that with a quick energy boost. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Then the response is you grabbing a cookie.
Yeah.
And the reward is that sweetness, the taste, and that momentary satisfaction.
But think about it. Our ancestors, right, their cues were finding water, shelter, actual survival stuff. Now our cues might be like a notification ding.
Oh my gosh.
On our phone, triggering a craving for that dopamine hit of social media.
It's so true. It's like our environment is constantly messing with our habits, shaping them.
Yeah.
Even when we don't realize it.
Yeah. It's kind of scary to think about. So it's like...
It makes you wonder, are you choosing your cues or are they choosing you?
Right.
I know.
So we've got these small changes that add up, and we've got these cues that trigger cravings. But Clear takes it a step further, and he's like, habits aren't just actions.
Right.
They actually shape our identity.
They do. It's like they're connected, right?
Yeah.
It's like a feedback loop almost.
Yeah.
Our habits kind of influence who we think we are.
Yeah.
And then that belief, that identity, kind of dictates what we do next.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know.
And the story of the Polgar sisters is a great example. Their father basically raised them in a chess-obsessed environment from when they were little. Yeah. Chess books everywhere, always playing, constantly praised for their chess skills.
So in their world, being chess prodigies wasn't this crazy thing. It was almost expected.
Totally. Their environment basically reinforced that identity.
Right.
Makes you think, what habits are we absorbing from our surroundings? Are they pushing us toward the person we want to be?
Yeah.
Or are they subtly shaping us in ways we don't even realize?
Oh, yeah.
Scary thought.
That's kind of a deep, deep question.
It is a deep question.
So how do we build these good habits?
Right.
And how do we break the bad ones? Because
that's the $1 million question.
That's the real question.
Yeah.
Clear has these 4 laws of behavior change that he talks about. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying.
Right. It's practical advice.
Yeah.
It's about working with human nature, not trying to fight it.
Yeah.
We're not relying on willpower alone, which, let's be honest, it doesn't always work.
It's not the most reliable thing in the world.
No, it's not.
There's this great example in the book about Japanese train conductors and how they use this pointing and calling system.
I love that example.
Where they literally point at and call out each signal as they're operating the train, even though they've done it thousands of times. It's like saying, hey, brain, wake up, pay attention.
Exactly.
We can apply that to our own lives. by creating a habit scorecard, like listing our daily habits and
Mhm.
tracking how consistently we're doing them.
Yeah.
It shines a light on those autopilot actions that we're not even aware of.
Totally. It brings them to the surface.
Yeah.
It makes you really see what you're doing every day.
So we've made it obvious.
Okay.
But how do we make it attractive? Because sometimes, like, flossing is not as tempting as scrolling through, like, social media or whatever.
Yeah, I know, right. It's all about dopamine. That pleasure chemical in our brains.
Oh, yeah, that's the good stuff.
Yeah, we naturally want the things that give us dopamine. That's why it's hard to break those bad habits.
Yeah.
But we can actually use that to our advantage.
Ooh, how?
Clear talks about temptation bundling.
Okay.
It's basically pairing something you want to do
Yeah.
with something you need to do.
Okay.
So maybe you only listen to your favorite podcast while you're working out.
Ah.
So now exercise isn't a chore. It's your ticket to enjoying that podcast.
That's a good hack.
It's a good hack, right?
But sometimes those bundle temptations still feel like too big. Like writing a whole chapter, even with my favorite playlist on, feels kind of daunting.
Right.
That's where the 2-minute rule comes in, right?
Exactly. It's about breaking down a habit into its smallest form. Something you can do in under 2 minutes. So instead of writing the whole chapter, maybe it's just opening the document.
Yeah.
And writing one sentence.
Okay.
It's almost like tricking your brain into getting started. Because usually once you've taken those first couple steps, it's easier to keep going.
Right. Yeah.
The hardest part is starting.
It's like that initial hump.
Exactly.
All right. So we've made it obvious. We've made it attractive. We've made it easy. Now the fun part. Make it satisfying. Because if a habit doesn't feel good, we're not going to stick with it.
No, not at all. We're wired to want immediate gratification. Clear uses the example of Safeguard soap in Pakistan.
Okay.
It was part of a public health initiative to reduce diseases. But they made the soap special. It lathered well, it smelled great, and it left your hands feeling soft.
Okay.
And it worked. Disease rates went down. And even years later, most people were still using soap and water. They'd actually made hand washing enjoyable.
That's pretty amazing. So little tweaks to make a habit more enjoyable can have a huge impact.
Right.
I like that. I'm going to have to think about that. We've covered a lot. But there's still more to unpack. We haven't even talked about breaking bad habits.
Or the role of identity.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry, we'll get to all of that. We're just getting started in this deep dive into atomic habits.
Okay, so we know how to make good habits stick, but what about the bad ones? The ones that just won't seem to go away?
Well, Clear has a strategy for that too.
Yeah.
'Cause we gotta flip the script.
Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of obvious, we make them invisible.
Yeah.
Instead of attractive, unattractive, difficult, unsatisfying, we just turn the whole thing around.
I like it. So it's like making it harder to do the bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. You're putting obstacles in the way.
Yeah.
Increasing the friction, decreasing the reward.
So it's less about like willpower
Yes.
and more about just like,
It's about strategy.
outsmarting yourself.
Totally. Like, Clear tells this story about John Patterson, the guy who invented the cash register.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, in the 1800s, employee theft was a huge problem because there wasn't a good way to track transactions.
Right.
Then Patterson stumbles across this invention called Ritty's Incorruptible Cashier. Basically, the first cash register.
Okay.
It locked the cash and receipts inside after each transaction, so theft was like impossible.
So no more sticky fingers.
No more sticky fingers. And guess what? Employee theft practically vanished overnight. Patterson's business went from losing money to making bank.
Wow. So it really is about making the bad habit impossible.
Or at least way more difficult.
Yeah, like putting it out of reach.
Exactly. Think about social media. If you want to cut back, you got to delete those apps from your phone, make them invisible.
Right. Make it harder to get that quick hit.
Exactly. You'd have to go through all the trouble of reinstalling them just to scroll. Most people won't bother.
It's like that saying, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. So we've talked about flipping the script on bad habits, but Clear also talks a lot about the importance of our identity and how that ties into all of this, right?
No, absolutely. It's huge.
We touched on it with the Polgar sisters, but it goes even deeper, doesn't it?
It does. It's like we get stuck in these stories about ourselves, like, I'm not a morning person, or I'm terrible at art.
Right, and those stories become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Exactly. If you believe you're not a morning person, you won't even try waking up early.
You're just setting yourself up for failure.
Totally. But the good news is our identities aren't fixed. We can change them. We can rewrite the story.
Okay, so how do we do that?
It's about building evidence. evidence that contradicts the old story.
Okay.
So if you want to be a morning person, start small. Wake up 15 minutes earlier for a week, then maybe 30 minutes the next week.
Little by little.
Exactly. As you see yourself successfully waking up earlier, that old belief starts to crumble.
I like that. So those small wins are like proof that you can do it.
Exactly. And we have to remember, our brains are wired to conserve energy. They want the easy route.
That's why habits are so powerful, right?
Exactly. They let us operate on autopilot.
But that can also work against us. Clear calls it the law of least effort.
Yeah, it's like water flowing downhill.
Yeah.
Our actions naturally flow toward the easiest path, even if it's not the best one.
Oh, so to build good habits, we have to make them the easy choice.
Yeah. Like prepping your meals on Sunday so healthy eating is a no-brainer during the week.
Oh, that's a good one. Or having your workout clothes laid out.
Yes. So you can just throw them on and go.
So you're setting yourself up for success.
Exactly. Cleary even talks about priming your environment. He gives the example of this guy who would reset each room after using it.
Okay.
Like after watching TV, he'd put the remote back, fluff the pillows, fold the blanket. It wasn't just about cleaning. It was about making the room ready for the next activity.
It's like clearing the runway for takeoff.
Exactly. And speaking of taking off, Clear also emphasizes that. Lasting change isn't just about the mechanics of habits. It's about understanding your why.
Your motivation.
Exactly. We need to go beyond just setting goals and cultivate a sense of purpose.
So it's like asking yourself, why is this goal important to me? What values does it align with? What kind of person do I want to become?
Yes, all of that. He even suggests turning goals into questions. So instead of lose 10 pounds, it's how can I become a healthier person?
I like that. It's like reframing the goal as a journey.
Exactly. And it connects your actions to a deeper meaning.
It's not just about checking boxes. It's about living a life that feels truly fulfilling.
Exactly. And let's face it, we're all human. We're going to mess up sometime.
Oh, for sure.
But Clear emphasizes that it's not about perfection. It's about having a system for getting back on track.
Okay.
He calls it the never miss twice rule.
So if you miss a workout, don't beat yourself up about it. Just make sure you get back to it the next day.
Exactly. It's about building resilience, knowing that setbacks happen,
Wow.
but they don't have to derail your whole journey.
So it's like progress over perfection.
Exactly. And speaking of progress, let's talk about dopamine again, remember? How it pulls us toward pleasurable experiences.
Yeah, that's the good stuff.
We can use that to our advantage by making good habits more appealing.
Okay, how?
Sometimes it's as simple as creating a sense of anticipation. Maybe you only let yourself listen to your favorite podcast while you're going for a walk.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that temptation bundling.
See? You're getting it.
Haha, yeah. I'm learning.
And it works because it taps into our brain's reward system.
Oh.
We're basically hacking our own biology.
Our inner caveman.
Exactly.
So this is all pretty fascinating, but it also seems like a lot to keep track of. Where do we even begin applying all of this?
Clear suggests focusing on your unique abilities, those areas where your talents and interests kind of come together.
So like, what are you naturally good at and enjoy doing?
Exactly. Maybe you're a great storyteller or you love working with numbers. Lean into those strengths, and it'll be easier to build habits that support them.
It's like playing to your strengths.
Yeah. Work smarter, not harder, right?
Right. And what about the people around us? Do they influence our habits too?
Oh, absolutely. Clear emphasizes surrounding yourself with people who support your goals and embody the values you want to cultivate.
It's like that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. If you want to read more, join a book club. Want to get in shape? Find a workout buddy.
Surround yourself with people who inspire you.
Yeah, people who lift you up and encourage you to be your best.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Flipping the script on bad habits, reframing our goals, finding our unique abilities, surrounding ourselves with the right people.
We've even touched on the importance of avoiding the arrival fallacy.
Yeah.
That trap of thinking that happiness is somewhere off in the future.
Oh yeah, the idea that once we achieve X, Y, or Z, then we'll be happy.
Right, but then we hit that goal, and it's on to the next one and the next one.
It's like a never-ending chase.
Exactly. The key is to cultivate gratitude and contentment now. Find joy in the journey, not just the destination.
That's a great point. And it actually ties into something else Claire talks about, embracing failure as a natural part of the process.
Yes. He says to see failure not as a setback, but as an opportunity to learn and grow.
Like valuable data to help you course correct.
Exactly. It's about having a growth mindset, knowing that mastery is a journey. We're all going to stumble along the way, but it's how we get back up that matters.
So it's about resilience.
Yes. And Clear actually provides a framework for designing a system for continuous improvement. He calls it the 4 laws of behavior change, applied to reflection and refinement.
So we're taking those same principles, make it obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying, and applying them to the process of self-improvement.
Exactly. So to make reflection obvious, we got to schedule it in, put it on your calendar just like any important meeting. Exactly. So to make reflection obvious, you got to schedule it in, put it on your calendar just like any important meeting. Maybe it's Sunday evening, reflecting on the week, or the last day of the month, looking back at your progress, whatever works for you.
Okay, scheduled. But how do we make it, attractive? Because reflecting on, our shortcomings doesn't exactly sound like a fun way to spend an evening.
I hear you.
Yeah.
It's all about finding a format that works for you. Some people are journaling people.
Right.
Others prefer to, talk things out with a friend, maybe a mentor. Some people are visual. Maybe creating a chart or graph of their progress feels more engaging.
So it's less about a rigid structure and more about making it something you actually look forward to.
Exactly. And to make it easy, keep it simple. No need to overthink it. Just ask yourself a few key questions.
Okay, like what?
What went well this week, this month? What didn't go so well? What can I learn from that?
Yeah.
And what adjustments can I make moving forward?
So it's about identifying the wins, but also where we could have done better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then finally, to make it satisfying, we got to celebrate those wins.
Oh, yeah.
Big or small, acknowledge the progress you've made. Each step forward just reinforces those positive habits.
Right.
Keeps you motivated.
It's just like giving yourself a pat on the back for showing up and putting in the work.
Exactly. And remember, building better habits, becoming the best version of ourselves, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. There will be ups and downs, setbacks, breakthroughs.
Oh, for sure.
The whole shebang.
This deep dive into atomic habits has given us a lot to think about. From those tiny changes to the power of identity, hacking our dopamine, embracing boredom even.
Even boredom. Who knew?
We've talked about it all.
We've covered a lot of ground. The importance of the people we surround ourselves with, reframing our goals to match our values. It's been quite a journey.
What stands out to you as the most impactful takeaway from all of this?
For me, it's that our behaviors are often a reflection of our identity. And that identity, that's shaped by our habits.
Yeah.
If we can focus on becoming the type of person who embodies those habits we want, lasting change, it just becomes so much easier.
It's not about forcing ourselves to do things we hate. It's about becoming the person we want to be.
Exactly. It's a much more powerful and sustainable approach to growth.
And for our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has given you some new insights, maybe even inspired you to take action. Remember, building a better life, one good habit at a time. It's a journey we're all on together.
Keep experimenting, keep learning, and keep striving to be the best version of yourself.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, happy habit building.